start up with the loan activities of the bank. We all know that banks will receive the deposits, and out of all the deposits that are received from the people, nearly 15% of that amount is reserved or kept with the banks, so that from that 15%, whenever the customer comes and demand, all those demands can be met out on a daily basis. And the major portion of those deposits are usually extended for offering the loans to those who are in need, and particularly those people who are in need, like they would like to have some kind of economic requirement, like farmers may require a loan on purchasing the tractors, on purchasing the fields, fertilizers, depending upon the requirement. And different requirements will be there, like some people may require a car, some people may require a flat, some people may require a house, some people may require educational loans. So to meet all these requirements, to meet up all those economic requirements, usually the major portion of all the deposits the bank will give it as in the form of a loan. Now loans are of two types. One is a formal source and the other one is an informal source. Those who are all in the need of a loan usually can go for these two sources. One is a formal source of credit and the other is an informal source of credit. Let us try to understand what exactly is a formal source of credit. When a customer takes a loan from a bank or a cooperative societies, we call that source of loan is a formal source. If the person is taking a loan from the money lenders, from the traders, from the relatives, from the friends, and from the shopkeepers, from any other sources other than a bank and a cooperative, we call it as an informal source of credit. Which one is good, which one is bad, which credit is better, which credit is not? Let us try to understand that. Let's say credit can be a positive and a prospective one. It can help the person, one who has taken up the credit. And credit can be negative and as well as very destructive to a person who has taken a credit. Let us try to understand how can a credit be a positive and a prospective one, and how can the same credit be a negative and a destructive one. Here there is a story in your book regarding Salim. Salim is a shoe manufacturer, and it was a season of a festival was about to come in a month or two, and he gets an order for manufacturing of the shoe for about 3,000 shoes. Okay, an order is received by Salim to manufacture nearly 3,000 shoes, and this person, to manufacture these 3,000 shoes, he takes nearly advance for nearly 1,000 shoes, an amount from that person who has given the order, and he also has some workers so that all the order can be finished up in the period of 1 month. And he also borrows the leather from the leather supplier, and he asks him that he will be making the payment after a month. So somehow he arranges all these, and he takes up the loan from the leather manufacturer. He takes up just an advance from the shoe manufacturer. He employs an extra employees in his factory and starts manufacturing of the shoe. Day and night he works. By the end of the 1 month, he will be able to deliver all the 3,000 shoes. Okay, all the 3,000 shoes he manufactured, and he gives it to the order to the person who has ordered it, and gets the remaining amount for the 2,000 shoes. So thereby he makes a huge profit out of this, and from the profits that he has received, he'll be able to pay the salaries of those people who have got employed. He'll be able to pay the amount which was he has delayed it to pay to the leather supplier, and he'll be also getting a good profit. So in this case, he has taken up a credit from the leather manufacturer. So thereby the credit here has been very prospective and very positive. This is one example where we can tell that the credit has been very positive one in this case. Okay, there is an example of Sapna, another example where we can see that the credit in her case, how it is negative and a destructive one for her. Here, Sapna, she has got a field of nearly 3 acres of the land in which she is planning to grow the groundnut. And to grow this groundnut, she takes up a loan from the money lender. Okay, and in the midway when the crop is about to grow and all that, her crop fails because of the attack of the pest, and it fails. And further, to meet out all her expenses, once again she takes up a new loan from the money lender and she grows again. Now the next the crop that has been grown by her, this time she'll get a marginal productivity, a marginal production, or a nominal output, out of which she'll be able to manage her own requirements, and she'll be unable to pay the previous loan that she has taken up from the money lender. To pay her previous loan which she has taken up from the money lender, she sells off her 1 acre of land. Out of 3 acres, nearly 1 acre of the land she has to pay it off. And this is where you can understand that in her case, while she has taken up a credit, it has turned her negative. She is unable to pay the loan, she has to give off, or she has to sell off her 1 acre of land, and so it has been a destructive in her case. So the loans in these two cases, like in the case of Salim, was very positive and very prospective one, and whereas in the case of Sapna, this has been very negative and a destructive one. Now let us look at the terms of credit. Usually any bank, they give a loan to the customers by taking up a collateral. Collateral is something in security. Collateral in the form of a security can be, a land belonging to a person, a property that belongs to a person. They take something in security as the collateral, and then they grant the loan to the customers. So usually when the collateral is concerned, all those people who are very rich and well-to-do people, they can provide this property or as a collateral, and they'll be able to take the loans. But unfortunately, the poorer sections of the society, they won't be able to take the loans by providing the collateral. So thereby here comes the role of the formal source of credit or informal source of credit. This tells very clearly that the poorer people are unable to provide the collateral, and thus they go for informal source of credit. As they are not in a position, and as they are not in a position to provide any collateral or any security, they choose for going for the informal source of credit. And all the rich people and well-to-do people, they always go for a formal source of credit. What happens if the person goes for an informal source of credit? What happens if a person goes for a formal source of credit? See, informal source of credit usually has got the high rate of interest. The interest rates are high, okay, and they can harass them in collecting back their amount. The harassment will be there, and moreover, anyhow they'll get it quickly. They need not to be, all those informal people, all those informal sources will be known to those people, and they'll give them without collateral. But the rate of interest will be high, and there are chances of harassment in that case. Whereas in the formal source of credit, the rate of interest is very low, and there are no chances of harassment. In fact, the collateral that is provided as a security, in case the person is unable to pay it back, then that security or that collateral is sold off or taken away by the banks. They sell it and they take away all the income and all the expenses that have to be recovered from that person. Okay. Now let us see the sources of credit for the rural household here in India according to the data given in 2003. In 2003, these poorer people or the people in the rural areas, what is their source? Let us try to understand with the help of this pie chart. Like you see, most of the rural people, they have been taking a loan or they have been taking the credit from money lenders. Like 30% of the rural people, they have been taking the loan from the money lenders, nearly 30%. 27% of the loan from the rural areas, they are taking it from the cooperative societies. 25% of the rural household people are taking it from the commercial bank. These are the three major sources that we see. And 1% of the people are taking it from the landlords. 3% from the traders, 7% from the relatives and the friends, 7% from the other sources. So majorly that we see is that most of the people in the rural areas, they took loan from the money lenders. There is, like you can see most of the, if you divide this into formal and informal sources, like 25 plus 27, it's like 52% of the loans are from the formal sources, and nearly the rest of the 48% is taken from the informal source of credit. We can really understand that. Okay, let us try to go ahead further into all these and where the different kinds of people are taking up different kinds of loans. Let us try to understand with another pie chart. Right. Now let us try to understand where exactly the people are actually taking up their loans from and where is their source of credit is from. Like here I have got a few graphs for you with a different category of people taking up their loans. A graph representing with the horizontal lines is an area from where actually they are getting up, is a formal sector, and the dotted area is representing the informal sector. So if you look at the first graph here, the poor households, the people those who belong to the poorer category, their main source of credit is mostly like 85% of the poorer households are from the informal sources. Only 15% of the people from the poorer category, from the poorer sections, they are taking it from the formal sources. Let us see another category of the households who are having some few assets, like few properties that they have got. Like nearly 53% of the people are taking up from the informal sources, and nearly 47% of the households are taking it from the formal sector. And from well-off households, those who are well-to-do people who are not so rich but again well-to-do people, nearly 72% of the people are taking up their loans from the formal sector, and nearly 28% of the people are taking it from the informal sector. And let us look at the rich people, those who are well-to-do people. You look at the 90% of the people are taking their loans from the banks, from the cooperatives itself, and only there are few, like 10% of the people are there who take their loans from the informal sector. So thereby what we need to understand is that 85% of the household, their source of loan is from the informal sector. That we need to bring it down. And we need to identify what is the reason that the poorer sections of the society are not taking up the loans from the formal sector. So after all working on this, one thing has been understood, that there is a new alternative method has to come up. The problem that has been identified is that these people, they do not have something in collateral. They cannot give something in collateral, okay, to the banks, and that's the reason they go for the informal source of credit. Because informal source of credit is like those people who they know very well, just with the word, just with the talk of the word, that these people, they give the loan immediately without taking them any kind of security, and the rate of interest is also high to them. So for that purpose, irrespective of that, so as to meet their requirement at that point of time, they take most of the loans from the informal source of sector. Okay. So right in this case, as we have seen that informal source of credit is more with the rural people, and there is no expansion in the formal source of credit. So as to bring as many people as possible under the category of the formal source credit, a new idea has emerged by forming the self-help groups, which we also call it as the SHGs, which are functioning in different parts of our country as well. And the idea is to bring all the rural people on the same platform where they can access the loan. What happens is that in the self-help group, so usually the groups are formed particularly with the women. Women will form a team of nearly some 10 or 15 or 20 women will form a group all together, and this group will open an account in the bank and will start saving their money from nearly like 100 rupees, a minimum of 100 rupees monthly, and they'll keep on saving like this. For a year or two, once they have saved their money, the bank will give them an opportunity on their savings to take up the loan on their savings from the bank. And that money what the group has been offered, the same loan will be paid back to the bank with the small rate or a minimum rate of interest on it. Now here the collateral, what it works, now usually collateral is the one which has been objecting all the rural people not to access to those banks. Why they were unable to go to the banks? Because of the collateral. So what does the collateral work here? The collateral thing is that, like, the group of 10 and 20 people, that when they are forming a group and they are saving their money into the account, here if in case one person or one woman goes without paying the money, then the rest of the people, like in the group of 10, if one woman doesn't pay, the rest of the 9 women will take up the responsibility of paying the loan to the bank. So that will work as a collateral to the banks. So with this minimum condition, right now these self-help groups are operating in the entire country and they are doing well. And these women, with the loans offered by the banks under this scheme, is helping up for them, in buying, small requirements for their household activities, like, in the purchasing of a sieving machine, in the purchasing of the seeds, in the purchasing of their cattle, in the purchasing of the equipments belonging to the agriculture, in all such minimum requirements where they can go ahead with their activities of economic activities. So in that way, these self-help groups are actually working out. The idea and the story of self-help group is usually related with the Grameen Bank of Bangladesh. The Grameen Bank of Bangladesh is very famous, and the story of this is very famous. Like, the Grameen Bank was started up somewhere in 1970s. They started up offering loans to the self-help group, and today they have got the Grameen Bank operating with the self-help group in more than 40,000 villages of Bangladesh, and it has got more than 6 million customers. So like this, the story of the Grameen Bank has been very successful in understanding the requirements of the women and the requirements of the rural people, where their source of credit has been mostly informal, so as to bring them on the platform of the formal source of credit. This step has been initiated. Hope you would have understood this lesson, and if in case here and there where you have got a doubt, you can just play it back and you can go through it again. And any doubts in this chapter, you can just write it down in the comment box. I'll definitely reply it back to you and try to resolve all your doubts. Thank you. Please do like, share and subscribe my channel for more chapters to come up.